Right, it's the World Wildlife Day, and we are talking about trying to conserve wildlife in Africa, and especially in Nigeria, where we have it here. We have Temitope Okunu. She's the founder of Faith International Foundation with us here. We have Ugochi Olugbo, our own Ugochi Olugbo, here joining us. Now, I was asking you a question earlier on. Just how important are animals or wildlife to life?
Well, I would start by saying that it's you know, the world is it's a form of an ecosystem. Without I mean, a break in the ecosystem means a disruption in the system. Wildlife is very important for, well, like I said, the ecosystem. I mean, it provides food, you know, provides job opportunity. In so many countries, the wildlife serves as tourism. You know, very good for science research as well, and particularly wildlife actually stops biodiversity loss. Yeah, basically.
Okay, Ugochi, let's have your take on that, the importance of wildlife to life.
Okay, I mean, it's an entire ecosystem. When you take out one thing out of it, it gets no more balance. It's not balanced anymore. So that
it gets distorted.
Yeah.
It's distorted. So for us to have an ecosystem in harmony, everything needs to work like a cycle. We have the ants, we have the birds, we have the elephants. When we take out one out of that ecosystem, everything gets disrupted. We need them for air, we need them in the oceans for food, for, as she said, for medicine also. So when we lose all these things, I mean, our children wouldn't have anything for them. It would be a planet without air. That's not even... We can't even imagine that happening.
Yeah, but some people will say these animals are for food. God has given you to them to eat. So what are you trying to? I don't seem to follow. If this is food for me and you say I can't eat it.
Well, God also gave us wisdom to understand what to eat, and I think the Bible also says that some things to eat and some things not to be eaten.
And you can't even finish everything anyway, because if you do that, that means you're going to be destroying the whole thing. So what happens to, like she was talking about, when you have that break, you know, some other animals are actually affected. It's like a domino effect. For example, take the Indian, what's it called now, the cattle egret. You know, the birds that eat on that cattle prevent, you know, diseases on the cattle. So imagine you have a wide loss of the birds. So what happens to the cattle? So they get infected with insect-borne diseases. So that's how it is. Everything works together in the ecosystem. All right,
but in all of this, do we really, in Nigeria, in the average Nigerian society, do we have an understanding of the fact that you see, let's say, a rabbit running across the bush path, and then you say, okay, is wildlife, you're not supposed to kill it? Do we have that?
No, we don't have it. No, we don't have it. And that's why we are encouraging people to participate in conservation education, which is what part of the things that Faith International Foundation does. So we engage our children in conservation education. Take for example the rabbit. The rabbit is domesticated, actually, just like the dogs and the cats. But wildlife, we're talking about undomesticated animals and plants. People think when you talk about wildlife, you're talking about just animals. No, we're talking about plants and animals. We have so many endangered species in the ecosystem. And take, for example, the Cross River rainforest, about one of the only rainforests we have in Nigeria. And we have the government trying to do a superhighway. There's a petition going on right now to stop that, you know. Imagine we have to, I mean, imagine the things we have to do to achieve the superhighway. We're going to be doing a lot of deforestation.
We'll come to that, where you tell us how maybe a change of habitat and things like that affect the species we are talking about.
Yes.
Well, I'd like you to list for us what are the animals that are wild animals, for instance.
For instance, the most endangered wild animals for now, because I like to focus on the endangered species. The elephant, for example, the sea turtle, my favorite. Yeah. Yes.
Yes. Why is it your favorite?
Well, you know, about 2 years ago, I got introduced to the sea turtle. Okay. And I look at this species. First and foremost, we caught it, and we found out that people, the elite in our country, actually eat the sea turtle. Okay. And they go as far as buying it to as much as 50,000 naira.
Whoa.
Yes, and that was my first, you know, contact with the sea turtle. I'm like, why would you do this? Number one, the sea turtle is very, very important in the marine ecosystem. And maybe if they have a lot of enlightenment, they might not be eating it. And some of them will go as far as, oh, the eggs are actually the most the sweetest,
sweet.
you know, and you have a lot of myth, you know, surrounding that, and you're like, these things are actually very important to in the ecosystem, and if you actually know, I think you would stop this. So we have the elephant, the sea turtle, the gorilla, the tigers, a particular species of the tiger.
The rhinos,
yeah, the rhinoceros, and
most
plants,
of this
rosewood.
Most of these animals don't just procreate easily. They don't just, you know, have young ones in 1 year. Some of them takes as much as 15 years to have one, just one.
Why is
In
that?
fact,
We have to
20
make
to
them
30 years.
We have to make them interested in,
fertile.
Well, I think that's just the way
together.
God made them. They're different. I mean, it takes 9 months for a woman to have a baby, but for most of them, it takes a pretty long time for them to have a baby. And that, when we distort that process, it means that we've lost the mother who would have had a baby, and then that's how we keep losing the species. And then we end up showing our our children pictures of elephants and tigers. We don't want that world. We want a world where we still have elephants in the wild.
Like they talk about dinosaurs now. It's only pictures you get to see.
Yes.
Although there's this myth as to did they
ever
exist?
exist?
You know, and all of that. But it's only pictures we can see now. So and all of that. But we in Africa, or Nigeria precisely, the concept of bushmeat. Bushmeat. Oh, in fact, Africans or Nigerians feel bushmeat is the sweetest of all meats around us. But you mentioned elephants, you mentioned lion and all that, rhinos. Do we still have these in the bushes apart from the zoos?
Yes, we still have them. Some are protected.
I think Africa has just listed about 100
elephants. 300
elephants now. The whole of Africa, the entire Africa, just has about 300 elephants. That's a small number.
That's a very low
When it comes
number.
to elephant, basically what you are looking for is the tusks.
The ivory,
really,
yes.
the tusks.
rhinos,
And so that's basically, because I heard the story, my great-great-grandfather killed an elephant, and it was a talk of a town.
Did they keep the head, the head or the tusk? Did they keep it?
Should we arrest you now for your
Arrest the great grandfather.
I heard the story.
Arrest the great
And
grandfather.
it was a talk of the town all over, and I became, you know, chief hunter in that part of the divide. So this, I'm trying to put that together with what we have as a culture in this part of the divide, and this new, as it were, enlightenment that is coming on board now. You have to do a lot more than coming on TV said, what are you doing really? Because to some might be a culture shock.
Yeah.
You say, I shouldn't kill this, I need to kill this.
To become a chief.
To become a chief, for
You
instance.
are right.
to come of
You're
age.
actually right.
Kill that to become chief.
You're very right, yes. Part of the communities that, for example, the sea turtle, like I said, research is still going on. We're actually doing a research on how the plastics affect the sex of the sea turtle, because we need to know if we are producing more females or males, so we know how the procreation is for Nigeria. So I think you're very right when you say the community are like, sea turtle, this is a very sweet meat. That's what we hear, and that the eggs are even sweeter.
Well,
So
do we have that in Nigerian seas?
Yes, we do,
Yeah,
and
we
we've
do.
been doing a lot of noise. I've been creating a lot of awareness for the sea turtle. Just a week ago, we released about 22 sea turtles back into the ocean with some of our partners, and it was surprising for some of the kids and the parents who came along. Like, sea turtle in Nigeria, and I mean, in fact, we have 5 species of the sea turtles in Nigeria out of the 7 species in the whole world. Wow. You know, and this one we released last week were the most endangered species. That's the leatherback sea turtle. So back to the question, or to the discussion, what we're doing in that regard is that, apart from, because sea turtle is still somewhat not too wild compared to rhinoceros or lions or the tigers or the gorillas or the leopards, so we are much more closer to the sea turtle, and then we can bring the children to the beach to watch them live as it's been released. Apart from that, we have what we call the Wildlife Eco Garden that we build in schools and ask people to support the schools, especially for the underserved primary and secondary schools. So that way, we educate the children about these things, these animals that are going into extinction or endangered. That way we, continue to educate, pictures and practical excursions,
I'll tell you a story. Last year, I
Okay,
was
fine.
You tell the story.
Tell us that story after the break. It'll be nice to hear that story.
So can I call
after
for
that.
the break?
No, you're not.
No,
You're
you
not
don't have the right to call for
You're
break
my
now.
guest. Behave yourself.
All right, let's go on a break and then we come back. But don't forget, we're going out on TVC Entertainment. Our viewers there can continue with the program on TVC Nigeria, Concert Channel 190 and DSTV Channel 418.
Go TV 45 and ACTV 510. Ugochi Olugbe has a story for you. Stay tuned.
Right, thanks for staying with us on TVC Breakfast. It's World Wildlife Day, and we are talking about the importance of wildlife to life right now. We have with us Temitope Okuno and Ugochi Olugbe with us in here. We've been talking about this. Now, Africa is blessed with rich wildlife, making the continent a major tourist destination. But Africa boasts of many reserves and national parks.
In Kenya's Africa's top safari destination.
Now, Tanzania's Serengeti National Park is home to some of the biggest populations of mammals in the world. Now, the South African Kruger National Park is one of the world's finest game parks. This world-famous national park is home to an array of wild animals, from hippos to crocodiles and cheetahs to wild dogs, giraffes, and numerous antelope species. Now, some major threats to wildlife include habitat change, which we're going to talk about, that overexploitation or illicit trafficking, we'll talk about that, and habitat loss, climate change, and poaching. Poaching is a very, very common one.
Indeed, many animals have even been tagged endangered species as their survival is constantly threatened by the activities of poachers. Poaching and trafficking of wildlife is not the most immediate threat to many species. That's according to the United Nations. A study published in the journal Nature Communications revealed that Africa was losing about $25 million, that's annually, just in the elephant poaching crisis. Now, this is just for one animal. How much more is Africa losing to these criminals? That's a big question. Temitope, you want to answer that? $25 million. $25 million every year. Okay, Ugochi, what do you have to say to that?
A lot of us blame this on our Chinese friends who come into Africa, and I don't know if they are bent on taking out all the lions and protecting their own panda, their special panda, and killing our elephants just because they want to have the good life. They want to have trinkets made of ivory. They want to eat with chopsticks made of ivory. And there's a big, it's a big market. I think it's even bigger than drug in the world. So it's a big market, and these people come into Africa, they cut down our trees. Beyond the animals, let's talk about our trees. They come into Africa and they cut down the trees and they ship these trees out for, to build beautiful houses and for furniture, and we are destroying destroying our trees. We don't have vultures anymore because the big trees were the vultures.
The trees for them. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, well, we cut the trees for them because we do not understand that we need to protect our trees. We need
so it means our governments are not really very stringent with their regulation,
with the policies,
on afforestation or deforestation.
And in fact, I'm certain we have some governors or government, I mean, I'm not being quoted here, who might be even involved in this business, who might be saying, come, let's chop down our trees and you give me the money, and we, not understanding that we need these trees. I can't imagine a world where I want to go for omogo for my daughter and I can't find one shosho or, one shosho. One shosho is a wild plant used for making pepper soup. Or otazi, or what else is that? You can't find them anymore because they're
like
wild.
Wild mushroom or not?
I'll cook for you and I'll show you.
Please invite me to the cooking.
What Ugochi just alluded to, the China and the whole connection, does it not elicit some kind of hypocritical tendencies of the Western world? They are the one pushing greatly for this wildlife.
I don't know if you heard about that story that a white man came all the way to Africa to shoot down a lion.
Zimbabwe, precisely.
Yes.
That happened.
Why would you leave? You have those species there, at your own country, and then you came all the way to Africa to shoot a lion. And then what did the African government do about it? If you do that over there, what would happen to you.
You're not coming back.
You're not coming back. You're going to be penalized for that. But, that's why we need a lot of sensitization, education.
But even in all of this, the irony of all of this wildlife issue is Africa owned this wildlife, grew up with this wildlife, and we see it as very normal. The importance that is attached to wildlife, I would not say it's not African, but the concept of regulation and all of that came from outside Africa in the first place.
So I think we don't understand that this is very important. I mean, they're also regulating their countries, and and they're saying the whole world they need to regulate this because actually they are dependent on Africa right now to help balance the ecosystem. If we destroy these things, which they've already lost,
that's the final hope or the last hope.
They've lost everything they have. They've developed. They've cut down the trees for infrastructure or for estates.
I think it's a sudden realization that things are going to fall apart soon.
So let's just help Africa save. There's a mechanism called the UN Red to help communities with forests conserve their forests. Teach them how to conserve and pay them in return. To conserve their forests. These are efforts by the UN to ensure that we are able to conserve these things for plants and you're nodding your head. Should I go ahead?
We'll go to, you're giving out the trade of the secret of the trade so easily. Okay, so we have
you shouldn't give it out easily. We're here to talk about it anyway.
No. She said I was nodding my head. The producer was talking and I was affirming that, okay, I heard, and she went on. Okay, so let's give you more information. Okay, so most of the zoos and museums in Nigeria are in a state of neglect. Development and management of the zoos and game reserves have been abandoned by government.
Now, but Nigeria once had game reserves that housed a variety of animals and birds. Now, the Yankari National Park in Bauchi State, I remember visiting that place once. It used to be very beautiful. And we have the Okomu Forest Reserve in Edo State, the Gashaka Gumti National Park in Adamawa and Taraba State, and Cross River National Park and Omo Forest Reserve in Ogun State, as well as the Sambisa Game Forest, where it's home to Boko Haram, which became the stronghold of this sect. Although it has been cleared now, we no longer have Boko Haram. Well, the government, the military has said it's all cleared. Okay. So we can go back to having wildlife.
All right, so the Yankari National Park in Bauchi State used to be an important refugee for more than 50 species of mammals, including the African bush elephant, olive baboon, Apatys monkey, Tantalus monkey.
These are species of monkeys, eh?
Antelope, lions, African buffalo, water buck, bush buck, and the hippopotamus. But poaching, hunting, and illegal grazing have drastically reduced their number.
Now, it is the country's richest wildlife oasis. Yankari Game Reserve contains the largest surviving elephant population in Nigeria and one of the largest remaining in West Africa. Now, Yankari was originally created as a game reserve in 1956, but later designated Nigeria's biggest national park in 1991. But Nigeria is a signatory to the Convention on Trade in Endangered Species, but poachers operate almost freely within the nation's protected game reserves.
At some point in Bauchi State, you could even buy elephant meat in the market. This showed that wildlife hunters were not afraid of prosecution.
Bushmeat.
Let's just stop a bit and talk about the CITES now. If you are a signatory to that convention, that treaty, what does it mean for a country, Ugochi?
Well, it means that the country would have to work to protect its endangered wildlife. It has to work with the international bodies to ensure that people who take these things out are sanctioned. The customs has a role to play to ensure that they watch out for those trafficking these animals. That is their role. And then to ensure that in their own country you protect your indigenous species and, like she said, educate people on the need to protect them, go to traditional rulers and villages to tell them that
So Nigeria is a signatory, and from what you read, that you can even get elephant meat in Bauchi and nobody's been prosecuted?
Well,
isn't that
it's that
worrisome?
bad. I hear Nigeria is the highest in the world where species are highly endangered. Nigeria is a big problem.
In terms of consumption?
In terms of consumption.
And wild trade.
Yes.
All right, I think we're going to do something about this bushmeat thing because that's
really interested in
I think you
but
do you eat
no. What I'm saying is that is the word or the term that is used.
It's from Benue State.
Yeah, but being Benue, anyway, fine. The concept of bushmeat is a common thing in Africa.
I know.
Yes.
And you know when you say bushmeat, you know what it means. But the death of some of these parks or game reserves in Nigeria where it can be handled in such a way that agricultural life is not gone extinct and giving way for industrial highways and urban development and exploitation for fuel, wood, overhunting and poaching, and misuse of fire in open range land by hunters and farmers. And other factors are poor funding and lack of effective legislation to regulate exploitation and sale of wildlife and wildlife products and urbanization.
That's
now
also,
let's go to the issue of the superhighway we were talking about earlier on in Cross River State. Development is good, we're talking about it, but when it is going to truncate or distort, because I like to use your term, distort the circle of the ecosystem, how do we balance this where we need development, but then it is going to hamper development in the ecosystem?
That's why it's called sustainable development. Development with nature, hand in hand. We build. It doesn't make sense for you to develop an estate and you chop down all the trees, build, and then you start planting leaves. Does it make any sense? So you need to draw your, whatever you're drawing, what do they call that stuff? You draw it and remember the trees as you don't chop down everything and then build and then start planting little trees. It's not the same thing. The carbon sink, these huge trees are good carbon sinks. You know, the little ones are just growing. It could take them 15 years, 20 years.
Do you know how much
a
liter of kerosene is in Nigeria today, talking about the firewood and all that? Have you considered that?
That's another thing. And even if you have to cut down, you know, there's something we call the transplanter now. You know, if the last pack has it, yes, you just remove the tree and, you know, place it or plant it somewhere else where it's needed. Because for you to wait till that little seedling grows, and some trees take 25 to 35 years to become a very huge tree.
But it doesn't even replace the old one, because when you're clearing up a whole site, it's like bringing down 15 trees and then you're planting 3.
Yeah, that's what the governor of our Cross River State said he would do. Chop down millions of trees and plant 3 times the number, but it's not the same thing.
It's not the same. It's not the same.
It can certainly not be the same. Okay, fine. Let's go on a break and then we come back for the final lap of this discussion in here. Stay with us on TVC Breakfast.